Right, welcome to Science to Sorcery, the podcast where we can explore how there's an overlap between science and spirituality. My name is Jake Marco. I am a life activation practitioner and ritual master in the Modern Mystery School. And today I have with me Kait Rees, who is a healer and ritual master in the Modern Mystery School and a director of cancer at a cancer diagnostics company. Kait, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I am so honored to be here. Thanks for having me on, Jake.
Absolutely. So Kait and I met, this was 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah,
September,
feels like longer, but
September of
yes.
23.
Yeah.
Definitely feels longer. Yeah, we met, I think it was, so this was at the beginning of a year-long Kabbalah journey in the mystery school. And we didn't even really become friends until almost a year later.
Yeah, it was truly the end of the program after we had all gone through our little alchemical shifts that we connected. So thank goodness for
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So, Kait, we did a little chat ahead of time to see what we were going to talk about. We thought a wonderful thing to touch on would be the fact that you, like me, come from a science background and then found spirituality and found the mystery school and these tools. Uh, so following that interesting path, I know one thing we wanted to talk about was how skepticism and scrutiny have played a role in your walk into the spiritual path.
Oh yes. Played a role, like a really, really big one. Yeah.
Like kind of your defining traits.
Kind of, yeah.
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 So
No.
how has that been for you? So
Yeah.
what was your journey from science to sorcery? Oh, look
To
at that.
sorcery. Yeah. No, that's well done. It was really kind of like a slow, long journey for me. I know some people like get a taste and they want it and they need it, but no, I was actually working in the lab still at the time. And I was in a weird place in my career. I actually got a career coach through my company, which was so cool. I got to go off site and get this coach, and she helped with so many things, presentations and all of these technical work things. In our last couple sessions, she said to me, Kait, do you want to like try picking some runes? And I was like, some what? She's like, these runes. And she brings out a bag of rocks with funny symbols on them. And I was like, okay, crazy lady, like, sure. Is this like a tarot card? She's like, just have fun with it. Um, so yeah, I picked my first ever rune and it gave me this message that was just like something I couldn't unhear and was super powerful and really caught me off guard. And I sat with that, and the next time I went back, I was like, so can I pick one of those rocks again? What are they called? And that's like where it started, right? With a bag of runes, where I was like, how could this possibly relate to my life? And then I got into getting Reiki because it felt good. Like, can't explain it better than massage. It feels good. I wanted to understand Reiki. So then I'd go in the lab and start Reikiing my cells, like, let's see if this is real, because there's no way. Turns out the
Yes.
cells that I performed Reiki on were growing better, needed fewer nutrients, like all these crazy things, right?
Like experimentally, like you were controlling for every that's really cool.
Yeah, I got like a level one, basic Reiki class, and I went
Yeah.
in and I was working with stem cells and I was doing Reiki on some of them in the morning before like my actual work started, right? And like those cells were I was changing the supplemental media on them less often because they didn't need as many nutrients. They were growing faster. They were differentiating faster. And like, Jake, it was insane. There was no
That's
explanation.
I can't believe you haven't told me this
I
before.
know,
That
I
is
know. I
so
don't tell most
as
people that
someone
was
who
my
also as someone who also came from like a cell culture background,
Yeah.
that is super interesting.
It was wild, right? And who am I going to tell at work that I'm going in and holding my hands over my cells and it's doing crazy things. So that was really, I think, the moment where I was like, there's got to be something. And so from there, then I shortly after that moved to Boston. That's where I met my guide in the mystery school, Alex. Let her do Reiki on me because Reiki was understood at that point in my brain, right? Like that was safe.
It works
It works, right? Like I,
beautifully.
ca- I can kind of explain that there's some data. I can put it in an Excel sheet, therefore I'm comfortable with it. Um,
It's in the box.
it's literally in the box, yes. But yeah, after about a year, she wore me down. She's like, try this life activation thing. And I was like, oh my God, there's a wand involved. Like, what? I can't do this. But yeah, wow. That was, now I'm in. I I say I'm in. I still question a good 80% of things I'm told that come across the plate, but like I've at least learned that I can be open to learning more things. But it really was the runes and then the Reiki and then the persistent Alex that got me here.
Like a bag of magic rocks and
Bag of magic rocks with silly symbols. And she's like, oh no, if you draw it this way, it means like it was wild. And because she had like really changed my life professionally, I trusted her in a different way. Like, I was terrified to speak in front of humans, which is why I went into the lab. And she had me presenting in front of my entire department by the end of this thing. So like I trusted her enough to play with her bag of magic rocks. Yeah.
I mean it's very if I may relate it to some of my experience,
Yeah.
it's I also when I was first introduced to some of the more metaphysical pieces of our world, it was from a college professor who know,
Mm.
outside of any sort of, magic and shamanism that he had explored, I didn't even know he had anything to do with this for months. But he was a psychology professor who was supporting me in a study abroad project around climate change and interviewing people on their
Ooh,
life effects. Very cool project.
very cool.
And I knew, he was Dr. B was the guy who would come in and tear our paper apart and tell us why our writing wasn't clear and why we should switch the clauses and
He sounds great.
what's oh awesome, awesome, really amazing mentor. And it was because I had trusted him so much and had built so much of this trust in him that when it came up that he was a had studied with the Lakota tribe in I think North Dakota and become a medicine man and studied with indigenous peoples around the world and was talking about the vibrations of the world and dreamscapes and all of these things. I was well, I know that you are a trustworthy person,
Yeah.
and my life has already become better because I've trusted you and learned from you. So I guess I can open up my mind to this possibility that there's something else about the world that I don't understand.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's exactly it. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. It starts with that kernel of trust in like the tangible world before you can open your mind. And not for everyone, but I think maybe for us that are classically trained as scientists that need data and need n equals three for everything in life, like you gotta have that kernel of trust.
Yeah, at least three, ideally 30.
I mean, ideally, yeah, yeah, like, yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So you found the school, you
Yeah.
started doing work with your guide, Alex, you got your life activation, and then a big part of the work that we do is classes, right? Well, like, we have our healings, we have our practices, our rituals, our meditations, our prayer, and then we have classes where we can, if you so choose and you want to explore more esoteric and sometimes very practical topics,
Yeah.
explore those. How has your scientific skepticism, your yearning to scrutinize, how has that played a role as you've taken classes in the school? Because you've been doing that for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years?
Yeah. 5 years now. 5 years. Yep. Um, Jake, it's so funny, right? At work, in my corporate job every day, I'm like, I feel like one of them, right? I have the fancy letters after my name, I have the degree on the wall. Like, I fit in and it's easy and I can, throw out some fancy science and math words. But then I get to a mystery school class and I feel like I am a pariah, right? Like I am the only one in this room that is looking around like, did you all just hear what they said? You heard what they said, right? But wait, you're all nodding along and smiling like, I'm not nodding. That didn't resonate. That sounds insane. You guys hear how that sounds insane, right? So it's funny for me that I keep signing up for these classes where I know I'm going to feel insanely uncomfortable and feel completely other and not like anyone else in the room. So what I've had to do is just like embrace the discomfort. That's fine. That's going to happen. And I haven't found a single class yet, even the like more practical ones that are maybe a little less esoteric and like a little more about life skills, even those they'll drop things where I'm just like, but wait, what about this? And what about this scenario? And how did you prove that? Excuse me, is there a publication on this? Like I've actually raised my hand in class and been like, is there a book I could read about that in? And they're like, no, just like listen, just listen. And stop listening with your head and like listen with your heart. And I'm like, but hearts don't listen, they pump blood. I'm not picking up what you're throwing down. Um, so it's like a struggle, but it's kind of a beautiful struggle. Because I think without that pain and without the discernment, without me being uncomfortable in that moment, like I'm not going to really soak this in. Some people do. It's great. They get it. They feel it. If something isn't like interesting enough for me to question it in a mystery school class, is it really even like worth paying attention to? That's where I've gotten, which sounds crazy. But if I'm not questioning it, then I'm like, no, maybe that's like not a good big part of the learning.
Yeah, yeah. It actually brings some very interesting questions as a learner, um, around, and I've toyed with this concept over the last few weeks, actually, that people that come to the mystery school are looking to shift something, right? There's something that they want something more out of life, and in order to gain that, one reason that you need something different, right? So if I'm showing up to a class and learning something where everything they've said, like, yeah, yes, absolutely, I agree with all of that, well, then why did I need the class?
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And like, I find that all of the best things in my life are the things that I've had to like work a little extra harder at, you know? Like, yeah, it's crazy to say that, but all of the good things, like marriage every day, literally a choice in work, but I couldn't imagine it being any better. Going through undergrad while working full time in three different jobs. It sucked. It was awful, but like wow, I wouldn't have done it any other way. And mystery school is the same way. If it's easy and it makes sense, why am I in the classroom? But you forget that every time you walk into the new classroom and they say the first crazy thing and you're like, "What? What? How did I get here?" Oh, right. No, I chose to be here. I signed up for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the difference, right? Is I don't know if like you've experienced this, but it's like sometimes, you know, out in the quote unquote real world, right? When we get outside of class and we start to apply things, and like sometimes you'll say something, you'll have some understanding, and someone will just come up and be like, "Oh, that's not right. That's that's not the world we live in. That's not how the world works." And you have to remind yourself, like, well, yeah. So I chose to have my worldview challenged, and now I'm applying that, and it's made my life better. I've created more joy. I've had more fulfillment. But not everyone has is in a place where they want to challenge their worldview, and that's not like a right or wrong thing. It's just we're doing different things. We all have different purposes here, and we all have different paths that we're following.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you find, I don't know, have you ever found in a class that like, have you ever felt too challenged? Like, have you ever reached that kind of breaking point or that boundary where you're like, no, no, this is just like way too out there. I can't even open my mind to start to believe it. Like, I'm gonna put that in a bucket over here for now. Has that happened to you?
It tends to be less frequent. I would say preface that, you know, audience members might not know you as well as I know you, but
Sure.
I don't think I've ever had it as bad as you.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yeah. You're a little better at that like open-mindedness piece of it all. Hmm. Hmm.
But then it's also a question of, am I listening hard enough? if I was listening more, may I perhaps actually be challenged more? Like, am I not ready to be challenged?
Yeah.
And
That's so
locking
interesting.
on to the things that I already kind of vibe with.
Hmm. Yeah, it could go either way. Are you not listening enough, or am I just so jaded by having been in it in corporate America for so long that we don't get to know, right? But yeah, because I've reached that point in classes where things are said and they're beautiful, and you see everyone in class like really thinking and understanding, and I can't even get my brain wrapped around it yet. And I will literally picture myself putting the thought in a box, and I put the box over here on a shelf, and I'm like, not for me. But then what's funny? I go back and I'm like reading my notes, and I try like to write down the really intense, wild things. And when I reread them later, there's like this little piece of me that's like, I'm not taking the box off the shelf, but maybe I'll take like the tape off of it. Maybe it just needs to breathe a little. But I've definitely hit hard walls in class where I'm like, absolutely not. No, this is no, this is wrong, and I know better. As this human, I know better. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you haven't hit too many of those. That's good.
And I have hit some, I
Sure.
think early on, like in one of the first classes you might take in the mystery school is a 2-day workshop called Empower Thyself.
Mm.
And for listeners, I know Kate, you know what that is. And um the first day, I almost didn't come back like after the first day.
Wow.
'Cause I got so challenged by something that was a very core belief for me. And I had to, I think where I got hit was that what made me come back was that I I saw myself in the future. Like
Mm,
not like a vision, but I was just I decided, thought experiment. I'm gonna look at myself in the future. Say, what if I don't come back tomorrow? What
mm.
does my future look like? And it's like, well, it will look the same. I will go down the same trajectory that I have been going down. And the whole reason I came here is because I wanted to live differently.
Yeah, that's a really good trick. I'm gonna steal your trick for future classes. I'm taking that. Thanks for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that.
it's actually gotten to the point now where if I have a class, I've taken classes before because the class came up and my initial thought when I saw the class was, I don't want to take that. I don't need that. And then like, why was I so immediately trying to reject that? There's probably something there that I can learn.
Probably a good nugget. Yeah, isn't that funny
And
how
then it
that
ends up
works?
being so profound. Like the classes, I think some of the most profound classes were the classes that I didn't want to take, but I showed up anyway.
So funny. Like, yeah, maybe that ego was like creeping in a little, and you were like, no, nobody. There's no place for you here. I love that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I can relate. There's like a series of classes in the mystery school that took me a long time to warm up to, that I resisted, that I came up. Oh my gosh, I had like the best excuses too, not just like generic excuses for not taking it, real good ones. Um, but you're right. I think I was like, this is gonna be really hard. And I'm not gonna believe any of it. I'm gonna have to take it home and research it all, right? But like, what's the worst that could happen? Oh, the worst that could happen is that tomorrow looks different and the day after looks different. Oh, wait, isn't that the point? So, yeah, gotta coach myself there sometimes. I like that you have like a mantra, so I'm gonna steal the mantra. Less
Yeah,
coaching, more
absolutely.
efficient. I like efficiency, so that seems to be the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get real efficient about it, it's yeah, just hone it in right there. We get an SOP going, and
Jake, don't get me too excited. Like that's yeah, sign me up. I'm in.
sounds like a great Saturday night. Let's put that together.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, have to say, one thing I've always very much admired about you is the fact that you do hit so much resistance, skepticism, triggers, where- and yet continually choose to come back. What's changing? What is happening that you come back into the world and you're like, no, I need to go back.
Yeah. Like if I'm gonna be really, I'll be real honest and transparent. And like part of it's maybe an overshare, but like the first part of it is that like I see the micro changes, right? Even when I'm skeptical and I walk away from a class and I'm like, that cannot possibly be how things work. That is literally the polar opposite of who I am and what I am now. Like I've sat in classes where I'm like, everything you taught me is everything I am not, and I can't even understand it because I can't relate to it at all. But then I come home, I'm going about my day. And like this little task I've done is easier. Or I have an interaction with my friend or my husband, and I'm like, oh, that was like delightfully easy. I didn't even have to think about that. It could be a million things, right? But like maybe it's also the little nugget that was placed in my brain last week when I was in class. Maybe it was that little change. So like I've never been one to see like huge dramatic changes. I think some people have that experience and it's beautiful. But I see little things in my life that get easier. So I sit in the really hard class where I'm really angry and where I really can't relate and I just don't even want to be there. And then on the other side of it is like ease. And it's the weirdest thing. But like that's the first part of it. Like, oh, my life has become easier. Good things come to me quickly. Can't explain why, but they do. I think the other piece is like, I identify as a bit of a masochist, so I think that plays into it. Like, I kind of like the pain and discomfort a little. There's something fun about sitting in that and like coming out on the other end. So yeah, I think it's the combination of things is like I really love discomfort and my life is getting easier. And then I like growing up did not have the easiest of lives, not the most straightforward. So like any little day that my life gets like easier and more flow and more joyful and more beautiful, like even if it's the tiniest thing, like cool, sign me up.
And now what's interesting about the idea of things being easier, right, is that it's a thing that I think I'll often try to describe to, other people about my experience in the school is like things tend to come to me like, right, easier, quicker. You might learn lessons faster. You might set yourself up for a more ideal outcome, but you are still putting in, I would imagine to you, you're putting in the same or even more work than you used to.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like now it's not that you are you're putting in less effort, it's that you are putting in the same or more effort, but you're getting greater and greater outcomes
Yeah.
in your life.
And it maybe doesn't, that effort doesn't drain me in the way it used to either. So like it is more effort, it is more time, it is more thing, but like I don't really feel depleted or drained by having to put in the effort. It just is, and I just do it because I know on the other side is something beautiful I can't explain. Like I'll never forget the time I left November programs, and my friends and I went to some, I don't know, like holiday garden thing, and I was like, we're gonna go look at flowers. Like, oh dear God, please don't make me do this. I love you, so I will go. And I remember being like, oh, I get it. Oh wow, these like these are really beautiful. I had never looked at a flower and like appreciated how beautiful it was and felt like, oh wow. And like truly it was after that class because I was like, oh, when you quiet your mind and when you slow down and when you appreciate something so simple and beautiful, is your life not better? And now I like go for hikes in the woods and it's not about how many steps I can get and how quickly I can do the hike. And like now I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a chipmunk. Oh my gosh, look at this thing. Like, what a beautiful thing to come into my life. Where, how else would I have learned that? Like, I don't know how else I could have learned that, except for sitting in a
Yeah,
class where I was triggered and irritated and like, who cares about beauty? I don't care about beauty. I care about productivity. Why are we talking about beauty? Like, oh, okay. I got you. Mhm.
yeah, that that is
Yeah.
what other school, what other classes, right, are you learning these kinds of things? And
Yeah.
not that I've explored the whole world and
That's
and
fair.
found all of the possible classes, But at least these ones I know do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of wild. And yeah. No, it's good. You got to be in the discomfort. You have to, I think you have to like being uncomfortable a little bit, like on some scale. You got to like the discomfort. But maybe you also just like have to try because what's the absolute worst thing that happens? Like you go see a group of your friends in Toronto or whatever, you spend a few days with people you care about, and then you go home and like nothing comes out of it. Like that's the worst case. That never happens, but like, why
Yeah,
not?
absolutely. And it's the times when like you had mentioned earlier about the box, right?
God, I
You'll
love a
take
good
something, like
box.
you might not take something right away, but you'll get something in class and you put it in a box.
Hmm.
And what's interesting to me, that's a very scientific way of going about it. Um, because you are not taking this, like it's very easy to take something you don't agree with and throw it out.
Yeah.
In fact, that's kind of like a culture we live in now, right? With, the way social media and algorithms work. Like you see something you don't agree with and you swipe away, you say, I don't want to see this anymore. Don't show me these people, block certain accounts. And instead, as a scientist would, right, you say, I'm going to observe the world. And I might not be ready for this experiment right now, so we'll put it in a box.
Yeah. To be studied
And
later.
yeah, to be studied later. Now we'll peel the tape off and maybe feel a whisper of dust come off. I don't know. Put that back on.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so I hadn't thought about it that way before, but you're so right. It's like when you're applying for a grant and you need grant funding to run a set of experiments and you find something so cool along the way that isn't related to like anything you can tie to the grant and you've got to like, okay, I'm gonna throw this in my notebook, I'm gonna put it over here for later and I'll come back. But I need enough background information and data to be able to get the backing that I need to really research and understand this. I've never actually drawn that parallel until you're saying this. Like mystery school, triggering things in mystery school are just a bunch of like really tedious, difficult grants that you got to write and apply for. Yep, you're right. Science and sorcery. Mm,
Science and sorcery.
maybe not here and here. Maybe sometimes here. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's like the way I named this, right? It was science to sorcery. It was originally I named it as like a journey from science to sorcery.
Ooh,
But the reality is that's not what it is. It's that there's science and there's sorcery, and what we're talking about is anywhere in between.
yeah. Like more of a spectrum than a journey. Yeah, yeah. It's
Like,
huh.
yeah, like it's the principle of polarity, which in some of the other episodes I've touched on my personal understandings. Now these aren't hermetic teachings, but
Sure.
my personal understanding of the seven main hermetic principles. So, right, for anyone listening that's not familiar, one of them is polarity, and it's that like everything has poles, right? You have
Yeah.
your positive, negative, your yin and your yang. You have your joy and your fear, and that reality, like happiness and sadness, right? Happiness and sadness are just two sides of the same coin. It's science and
Mm,
sorcery, right? They live along here. The two things
yeah.
that you might look at as very different are because of their opposition is almost hinting at the fact that they're actually the
Actually the
same.
same. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I cannot remember who I heard this from in mystery school. And it was really maybe only 6 months or a year ago, but someone said, you know, like magic is just the science we haven't done yet. There's so many things we've proven through scientific theory that we're so like, bacteria contaminations. Those were just like magical, mysterious things that happened. Oh wait, and then Pasteur went through and figured it out. Like magic is just stuff we haven't had the time to apply the science to yet. And that was it for me. I was like, oh yeah, wow. Okay, maybe you're right.
Yeah. It's the value then of what do you do with that information, right? Like the Reiki, for example, like you were doing Reiki on your cells. In what world are you getting funding to study? how Reiki is going to affect cell growth and their metabolism and the accumulation of lactic acid and ammonia.
Yeah,
Like
no one's approving that grant.
that's
Nope.
you're not getting money to study that.
Nope. You're doing that on Sunday mornings when you go into the lab of your own free time. Yeah. And then good luck
A
trying to
lab that you
publish
pay
that.
for.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, you're so right.
That is a
The system.
personally funded scientific pursuit.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
funny enough, it might actually be a relatively cheap one depending on how you choose to do it. We
Yeah,
might need to
yeah.
talk after this,
Yeah.
actually.
You're like about that.
But just because we can't empirically show it at this moment in time with where we're at, in our scientific pursuits as a society, doesn't change the fact of whether or not something works.
Yeah.
Just because we hadn't figured out how gravity worked didn't mean that we would fly off the earth, 2000 years ago.
Yeah. You're so right. But I couldn't have seen that even just 2 years ago. It took 5 years of classes and training and experience for me to hear that sentence. I'm sure it was said 100 times before that, but it took years for me to finally hear it, and now I can't unhear it. And that, like, yeah, principle I live by now.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, yeah, we hear the things that we're ready to receive.
It's so true. It's fun to like leave a class and people are comparing notes and they're like, oh, blah blah blah, we said this. And I was like, no, I don't have that in my notes. I didn't hear that. Like you truly hear what you're ready for.
Oh my God, it happens so often. Like you and I have sat in the same classes where it's like, yeah, no, he taught us this, and you're like, no, no, or you're like, yeah,
Jake,
no, I learned. We talked about this in this class. I know because I was wearing this shirt and you were doing that, and I'm like, no, 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 no. We never once talked about that. I am certain.
like it's here in my notes, dated, blah blah
Yep.
blah. Yeah.
And I didn't get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of class. I waited for the bathroom breaks.
Which is sometimes like a good clutch move when when I put my thing in my box and I can't hear about the box anymore. I'm like, oh, I just gotta get a snack real quick. I'll be back. Resistance comes in fun forms. Yeah,
If I'm not going to hear it at soul level anyway, might as well move on.
exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, and it's one other thing I thought about earlier that I wanted to bring up was the idea that when we like sometimes I think I've noticed for myself and also for other like observing other people is like when you hear a thing that triggers you, or like you are so skeptical about, you say that's completely wrong. Like I'm going to dig into this. And I don't know if you've experienced like where you've ever come around to it eventually. Like, no,
Oh,
no, this, yeah.
oh, Jake, yeah. That
And
moment of coming around
almost,
to it.
it's almost like, for me at least, it's less of like changing your mind and agreeing with what they said. And it's more of realizing what I heard is not the same as what was said.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. You're so right. Because like you're hearing it in that moment, who you are in that moment, what you have in that moment. You're so right. You're so right. I've come around to things, but I don't find myself sitting down and being, oh yeah, now I totally agree with the thing. That's not the phrase I'd use. But there's so many of those things, Jake. There's so many of those things. I'm like, I don't even know where to begin to explain an example of something I've come around to. And some of it's so quick. But like, yeah, last November I took another fun series of classes, by far the most difficult classes I've ever taken. Like the most triggering. I actually would like leave the class on break and kind of just like wander to a quiet corner. And I'm a person who like is driven by food and snacks. Every 2 hours I need food. So usually I leave class and I'm like, gotta go get my snack. Like I couldn't even eat because I was so distraught because I was like, oh, I've been doing it wrong my whole life. And it's funny how I then 2 months later, I'm like, going about my day, going about my morning, and all of a sudden I turn around and I'm like, oh, I'm doing the thing they said in class that I said was wrong and against who I was as a person and a woman and a feminist. It's against all of that. And I'm doing the thing and it feels really good. And oh wow, maybe it was meant to be this way. And maybe now my life is like a little easier because I'm doing the thing. It's It's so crazy because I can't explain. Like when I look back at my notes and there's things that really trigger me, I'll like underline them or I'll put boxes around and to go back to that and be like, why was I so angry at this? Oh, this is fine. Why was I so triggered in that moment? It's cool. Hashtag growth, right? Like that's where you see the growth. Do you do that? Do you write angry notes to yourself in your notebook during class, or is that just a Kate thing?
Normally, I'll write questions that I have that I want to
Okay.
explore later. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
if I'm doing angry notes or scribbling, I hate you, teacher, or anything like that.
That's okay. Good to each their
It might
own,
be a
right?
you thing.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Awesome. Well, Kate, this has been so wonderful. Real quick, do you want to shout out where people can find you if they want to learn more about this energy work through you and your experience and they're living in the Boston area?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, in my free time, I do healings and try to combine the energy work with the business world and making your life easier in that way. So, my website is innersparkhealing.com. You can come over there and then, come to the Mystery School Center in Waltham, do meditation with us. It's pretty great times.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, returning from the technical difficulties just to to say thank you so much, Kate. This has been Science to Sorcery. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any interesting things that piqued your interest, feel free to delve further into some of the other videos we have. Thank you so much, Kate, for being here.
Yes, thanks, Jake.